Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this edition as we'll give what I think of what happened this past couple days in the NBA playoffs. So first, we'll go out to the Eastern Conference. So Raptors Cavs. So in that series it was very lopsided, I would say. LeBron James right now is playing some of the best basketball of his career. In the past 3 games, he scored 30 points in each game, so like 33, 36, 37. His play is just showing the Raptors they don't have a shot to contain him, and who's guarding him? DeMar Carroll guarding him some. He's not even playing anymore in the series, and it's been Norman Powell as of recently. So what I think of that is you just can't stop LeBron. From what I observed the past 3 games, you can't stop him. What is he doing? Oh, he can hit a three-pointer, no problem. Driving in, he's actually hitting his free throws this series. Passing, just doing everything. LeBron James, as I said a minute ago, best basketball of his playoff career the past 3 minutes. And he's had many stretches like that. He had a great stretch in last year's finals, but as of right now, the Cavs have a 3-0 lead. Did I expect this going in? I didn't expect this. I thought this Raptors team was better if PJ Tucker and he's guarding LeBron is not working. And really, no one can guard LeBron, so really nothing you can do about that. And then, outside of that, what is different than what I expected? Well, I thought the Raptors might win a few games. I thought they're more talented than last year's team, especially with Ibaka and Tucker. And they look like the Cavs' biggest threat. As of right now, they're not a threat at all. So, we talked about how great LeBron is, so let's go back and forth and talk about each game. Game 1, the Raptors were in it a little while. It was close. Cavs went up by 18. Raptors got back in it. It was clear it was a blowout. LeBron was great, of course. Kevin Love played well in that game. And Love's done pretty well throughout the series. He's hit a bunch of wide open corner threes. Really has not had to do a whole lot. I'd say he's been pretty good. Irving, he's taken the second most shots on the team. I thought he's had a good series. So it was close. And for the Raptors, DeMar DeRozan played okay in that game. Here's the storyline on DeMar DeRozan. He was okay, terrible, and great for 3 quarters. So he was their best scorer throughout the series. As we'll get back to game 1, as we'll talk about him in a minute. So, game 1, kind of a blowout. Game 2, really not that close. I think it was even more so a blowout. The Cavs were up by 25 in the fourth quarter, up by well over 20. It was really the third quarter. They shot 3 after 3. LeBron hit a few threes. Kyrie, who really struggled in the first half, got hot. He made something like 3 or 4 threes that quarter. Channing Frye contributed. Really, everybody in that game contributed for the Cavs in that third quarter. That was the difference. That was the highlight. And Kyle Lowry, he got off to a great start in that game. He was the Raptors' leading scorer, also leading passer too. He was great, distributing and scoring. Well, he got knocked out as he had the army crawl towards the bench, and he barely played after that. They didn't have anyone else and didn't even play last game. It's uncertain whether he'll play game 4 or not, so there you go. Lowry out made the difference, and let's talk about game 2. That was with DeMar DeRozan. That was his worst game of the series. He played terrible that game. He's something like 2 for 11, had only 5 points. He was awful. He's their leading scorer, and one big man who I'd say has contributed for them is Jonas Valanciunas, who he scored he probably is the highest average scoring of anyone in the series, second highest since Lowry didn't play the last game, so basically 0. And then DeRozan being terrible in game 2. I thought he was great in the post, but that doesn't really matter. They're down 3-0. That does not matter what Valanciunas did. Sure, maybe it's a good sign for him personally and for maybe his future, but that doesn't matter when you're down 3-0. And what I thought about game 3, now I thought that was the best game of the series. So early on, it looked like it was kind of a back and forth game. So far, DeRozan was at a really good first and second quarter. I think at halftime he had 24. So he really kept them in the game. It was back and forth. LeBron really started getting going in the second quarter. He was great at halftime. and it was pretty much tied. And the Raptors in the third quarter kind of took the lead back again. And DeRozan was great in the third quarter, and in the fourth quarter, the Cavs just took over. Here's what happened. Kyrie Irving had a very good third quarter. LeBron was incredible in the second half, just like he was in the first half. He really started scoring a lot, and DeRozan basically had nothing left. And outside of DeRozan, who did they really go to? Well, Norman Powell, I thought he did okay offensively in that series. But he's not really a guy who can constantly guard LeBron, and no one can keep up with him. And look, without Lowry in Game 4, if he does not play, and he's certainly going to be limited if DeRozan plays like he did in Game 2, or anything less than Game 3, they have no shot of winning. That's what it showed, and they lost by 20. They're in it, and DeRozan just had nothing left in the fourth quarter, and that was the difference maker. And the Raptors virtually have no shot whatsoever. Can you look at the confidence of Valanciunas, who's had a good series offensively? Yeah, you could look at that. That could be crucial for them, but I just don't see that really as that much of a factor. I mean, sure, he can put up 19-10 every night, but it doesn't matter. They lose anyways. And how did Corey Joseph play? He had a few shots, but really didn't play that well. Couldn't keep up with Kyrie on defense, and which, again, Kyrie's a very good ball handler, and it's hard to keep up with him on defense, but still, there is no way you can do that unless Lowry completely dominates Kyrie Irving. Where, let's say Lowry, for an example, might score 26, hold Lowry to 13, stuff like that. That's not going to be a factor anymore. And why was DeMarre Carroll benched? Well, I'm not exactly sure why. He didn't do anything on offense, so they thought, okay, he's not going to do anything on offense. By the way, fun stat, according to Basketball Reference, his offensive rating is 32, which that's basically what he contributes when he's on the floor, which is virtually nothing. And he can't really guard LeBron that well, so they thought, okay, Dwayne Casey was probably thinking, and again, I wasn't there, so I don't know for sure, but he's probably thinking, okay, he's not contributing offense as well. There's no way we can guard LeBron. Matchup change up, and sure, Norman Powell's offense is better, has been better, and what about PJ Tucker? He's guarding LeBron some. That's not working, which, again, nothing works against in guarding LeBron. No one can do it except for Kawhi Leonard or Draymond Green or maybe, but probably not Kevin Durant. There are very few people who would give LeBron a hard time. So, anyways, is there any way the Raptors can even win a game this series? They're not going to win the series. When you're down 3-0 in terms of sports history and certainly basketball history, that means that you are done. And technically, it's not over till it's over. But I don't see any way how the Raptors can win. What about their positive points when they're really in it? What was going well for them? Valanciunas, sure. DeMar DeRozan carrying the team for 3 quarters, sure. That's when they were in it. But at no point in any game did I thought, oh, they're going to win. They're going to win this game. Now, maybe in the first or second and third quarters, maybe, for a few of those games. But never in the fourth quarter of any games, I think, the Raptors actually have a shot to win this. By the end of the game, it's clear that it's over. In every game this series has been about 20 points. Again, they won by 11. The Cavs did in Game 1, and the Raptors cut it closer, but it was way too late at that point. And look, the Raptors have virtually no chance. With LeBron playing the best basketball of his life, and even when he's scoring 38 points a game, they decide to double team. If they do, which they haven't, that's not going to work. You can just find someone like Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Channing Frye. The list goes on, and you just can't beat LeBron when he's at his peak. And this team, being up 3-0, they handled them much better than, say, they did the Pacers. I'm not sure why. Maybe they thought, okay, this is playoff basketball. We have to try 100% all the time. This is not as easy as we thought it was. And then being up 3-0, it's not like, say it was last year, the Raptors are going to drag them to 6. It's just not going to happen. They're going to have a week off at least. as the series could be over tomorrow, as much as 10 days. So I think the Cavs would be best if they got the series over as quickly as possible, and just closed it out, waited for either Boston or Washington. So my prediction is, based on what I've seen so far, there's no question that the Cavs close it out tomorrow. And let's move on to Boston, Washington. So that was an interesting series. To give a summary, as we'll get to game by game in a minute. Isaiah Thomas went crazy with 52, maybe 53 in game 2, 29 points in the last 17 minutes, 16, 15, however many of them he played. Very high percentage. And that was just one of the greatest performances in playoff history, in my opinion. So, let's start with game 1. So, throughout the series, game 1 and game 2, the Wizards got up to 10, 13, 15-point leads in the first and second quarters. In both games they lost. So in game 1 was a 16-0 start. It was John Wall, the play of John Wall in the first 2 games, that really kept the Wizards into it. He's been great this series. By the way, he had 40 points in game 3. Wall's been great. He's been able to fly to the free throw line, get a bunch of 3-point plays. That's been great. I like the play of Markieff Morris. He was outstanding in game 1 until he got hurt. Game 2 was limited. I thought he played well for someone limited. I thought he's had a good series. And so when the Celtics were down 16-0, that's when Isaiah got hot. He kept them in it. Then it was Kelly Olynyk. I thought he had a very good series. Of course, no one really contributed in game 3, as we'll get to that in a minute. So I thought that was a key factor for them. Started to get closer and closer. Celtics got it closer. Jay Crowder, went crazy in the third quarter. I think something like 4 threes. And they really didn't have a chance. Al Horford played great. You know what? He played great, and look, that's how the Celtics won game 1. Just contributions from everybody. And by the way, Beal played the best game of his series in game 1. Bradley Beal did. And which was a pretty good game, but games 2 and 3, Beal's been terrible. He's missed everything. He has not contributed at all. He's supposed to be their second best scorer. Has not showed up the last 2 games of the series. Game 3 didn't really matter, but game 2, if he could have hit that shot at the end, it was a pretty open jump shot. And granted, he had to rush it. Really, if he would have had a good game 2, the Wizards would have won. John Wall carried them. And how are the bigs doing? Well, Gortat's had a good series, been double figures in rebounds and scoring pretty much every game, between 10 and 15 in each category. So he's averaging a double-double in this series. And game 3, well, the Celtics, that was the one game. They're down by 20 points. The Wizards went on a 20-0 run. I did not think the Celtics had that much of a chance to win that game. I didn't count them out, but it just kept staying that way. Got to as much as 30, and really, Isaiah Thomas did not play well at all. I think it went something 3 for 8, had only 13 points or something. Avery Bradley on the offensive end has not played very well. Give him credit defensively, especially in game 2, for really his play was a big factor why they won game 2. Of really limiting Bradley Beal. Didn't really matter in game 3. They had no shot to win that game. Really, after the first quarter, they never really got any closer. And if it weren't for Isaiah's play in the fourth quarter, kind of how he had all these shots, hit some threes, jump shots, got to the line, all that stuff, then they could be down 2-1. They really could be down 2-1 if the Wizards did not let the Celtics dominate them the last 3 quarters. Really, the Wizards had about 12 to 18 good minutes, and the Celtics pretty much own as much as 3/4 of the game. They could be up 3-0. They really could be up 3-0 and should be up 2-1. And just the play of each team in this series, it's really pretty much even, I'd say. it's an even matchup. And the Wizards' efforts in Game 1, they're down by 15 in the fourth quarter. They made it interesting. They did not go away until the very end of the game. And in Game 2, Game 4 is tomorrow. In overtime, they were clearly out of energy. They had just 5 points in overtime, lost by 10. John Wall, of course, was clearly out of energy. The energy of having to guard Isaiah, carrying the team on offense. That was a key factor. And as Game 4 happens tomorrow, what do I want to see from both teams? Well, from both teams, I think Isaiah needs to have another great game. Doesn't have to score 50. But if he can score 30, that would be great. Al Horford, just keep doing what he's doing. Hitting threes, grabbing some rebounds, passing it out, all that stuff. I think Al Horford's having a good series. Again, a challenge to guard someone like Gortat, who's is that much of a size advantage on him. And hopefully what Coach Stevens does, which in Game 3, nothing seemed to work what he was trying. Which, again, games like that happen. There's games where you just don't have it. And that was the Celtics in Game 3. And what I need to see from them, I think Avery Bradley needs to pick it up on offense. Needs to keep playing defense the way he's had. His defense has been very good this series. He really needs to limit Beal as well. Guys like Otto Porter, I thought he's played pretty good defense. Definitely made huge contributions on offense. They're doing well. The Wizards bench, other than Bogdanovich having that moment where he scored something like 7 or 9 straight points for that 2-minute stretch, their bench has done nothing. Again, Oubre, I thought he's been a good factor off the bench, will not play tomorrow. As I'll talk about that now. So, what happened was about a 20-point game. Apparently, it was Kelly Olynyk setting a legal screen, I think. Basically kind of shoulder blow or something. Definitely took a shot at Oubre. And what I'd say is he did not control his emotions at all. He let his emotions get the best of him. And here's why. The official was clearly blocking him from Olynyk, and he came charging at Olynyk, and the official was right there. There was no way that he could get away with it. None. Should he have been ejected? Well, for clearly starting a brawl, and wasn't a brawl, but starting kind of a fight, and when the official was right there, basically charged through the official, that is certainly a flagrant foul. And did he deserve to be suspended? If it was again in the 90s or 15 years ago, no, but due to today's rules, I honestly don't know if he should have just been suspended or not. Probably not. Again, what he did was difference between what him and Olynyk did. What Olynyk did was just trying to play basketball. Got a little carried away, set an illegal screen. Yes, that's a foul, and maybe could be flagrant, something that the times in the past and certainly has been done before has been looked at. But what Oubre did was not basketball, was just got out of control, let his emotions control the best of him, and that might cost him. He was their best player off the bench, and they don't have anyone anymore to really do that. There's just no other options. And look, the Wizards, being down 2-1, certainly in danger of being down 3-1, knowing there's a Game 5 back in Boston, all the pressure is on the Wizards right now. Here's why. They have no bench to guys like Wall, and certainly guys like Beal, who really did not have anything in Games 2 and 3, are under extreme pressure to really put up a good performance. Since there's no bench and Wall's going to have to be spectacular, he might have to do what he did in Game 2. And they're clearly going to be very tired. They're going to be extremely tired. So what they need to do in order to win the game, get off to a great start, and don't blow it. You need to do more what you did in Game 3, not in Games 1 and 2. And they cannot keep it close late in the game. Since if they get up by 15 or something, put the bench in, all of a sudden it's a 5-point game, they're going to be out of energy. So what they need to do is, when they're on the floor, they just need to play the best they've ever had. And if it's late in the fourth quarter and they do win by 3, 5 points, whatever, they're going to be completely out of energy. And let's say they win game 4. Game 5 is going to be under a huge amount of pressure. They're clearly tired. They're worn out. They got to play game 5. And that's in Boston. And if they somehow grind the series out, somehow win the series, it's going to take 7. The Wizards are just going to be completely out of energy by the time it's the conference finals. And really, that game 2 loss, that's why it was such a terrible loss. They were completely out of energy going into overtime. They cannot hold the lead on the Celtics. So say they're up 2-1. They're still at the advantage, but now they're gonna have to really be low on energy just to tie the series up, and they're gonna have to go 100% all the time. With the way their bench is, they just can't beat the Celtics unless they're at their very highest peak performance. Since the Celtics have a better bench, you can put in guys like Olynyk, who is not going to score 1 point like he did in Game 3. And then other guys like Rozier, who, again, had a bad game in Game 2. No one played well, except for really Horford. He's going to have to, he's a more constant contributor of someone you can trust off the bench. The Celtics, period, have a better bench. Someone like Marcus Smart can give Isaiah a break, which he's done a really good job of throughout the series, having to guard John Wall for half of the time. And that's a much better bench, having constant contributors like that. And of course, the young Jaylen Brown, who, when he's come on, he's giving them energy, especially on offense. So, the Wizards bench, what do you do? Brandon Jennings? Sure, you can bring some offense, instant offense. I mean, he did score 55 points in a game 8 years ago, but has been down on the Wizards. Bogdanovich, he got off to a great start, but has really not been consistent enough in the playoffs. He's going to have to do better. Jason Smith, maybe 7'1", all he can do is shoot jump shots. The Wizards just don't have a bench, and it's clear. So, I'm going to say this one last time. All 5 starters have to play the best they ever had tomorrow. And you've lost your best bench player for that game. And that could be critical. Since if the starters don't have it, they're done. They're done. They're going to be down 3-1 going back to Boston. If they lose tomorrow, the series is over. Period. If they win, they're going to have to fight as hard as any team has ever have to fought just to win that series. And guess what? Who's next? LeBron James playing the very best playoff basketball of his career. So, really pick your poison, Wizards. The benches cost you. So, that's the Eastern Conference. So, as of right now, the Cavs are pretty much guaranteed to advance in this series. Based on what I said, the Celtics are likely to win, but it's not guaranteed. Looks like whatever happens tomorrow, it will definitely take maximum effort to win that series. So, let's move on to the Western Conference. Warriors Jazz. So, this series, I don't know really what to say about this series. The Jazz have no chance to beat the Warriors. Just none. Guys like Curry, guys like Thompson, Durant, they don't have to take a whole lot of shots on offense to win the game. They might get 15 shots apiece. They might all score 20 apiece. That's it. They don't need to score 35, 40. They don't have to take over. And the Warriors have shown no signs of that this far. Draymond Green has had a great series. Offense, defense. He's been their best three-point shooter by percentage. It's just been spectacular to see. Just what a performance by the Warriors. Their defense is great, and for the Jazz, well, Gordon Hayward's just carrying the offense right now. He is their leading scorer by far. He has to carry that offense, and you can't really win, and you can't really do that when he's their best scorer, where the Warriors have guys like Steph Curry, the winner of the past 2 MVPs. They have 3 out of the last 4 MVPs. They can score 30, 40, 50 any given time. so can Klay Thompson. Draymond Green can do it all some games. 20, 10, 10, 10. Whatever. Iguodala, just they have so many guys who can score and can just get open looks, and it's not even really that close in this series. Now the scores, it's not like they're winning every game 130 to 98 or whatnot, but they're winning games. They're scoring 110, 97, which, again, the Jazz, their defense is keeping them maybe below their average standards of 115 a night. Maybe that's the best thing the Jazz are doing. And Gordon Hayward has to carry the offense. Since guys like Rodney Hood, 0 for 9 on 3-point attempts, has not hit a 3 this series. Joe Johnson. Sure, he's hit a few 3s this series, but he's not the kind of player that he was against the Clippers. This is a much worse team. You can't rely on a 36-year-old to carry you at times like they did against a not very good Clippers team with just Chris Paul. This is one of the best 3-year stretch any team's had in league history, and you just can't do that. And sure, and other guys, George Hill missed game 2. The Jazz, they're nowhere near as talented. And sure, they got 2 games in Utah. I bet there'll be a very close game in Utah. But based on what I've seen so far, the Jazz talent is nowhere near as close. It's just not even close. I really don't know what to say for the next 2 games. I think the Warriors, one of their big 3 is going to have a breakout game, is going to dominate one of the games, and it's just not going to be that close. Again, you might have a 102 to 98 really grinder in game 3 or 4 that the Warriors win. But look, the Warriors, they were much more well rested, while the Jazz really had to play a full 7, had no layoff, had a day off right there, while the Warriors basically had 8 days off. So you talk about having the longest layoff and the shortest layoff. So 1, the Warriors being a better team, much more rest. 2, the Jazz are so much worse, so much less talent, so much less rest. They have less energy. And sure, they'll be fired up going into Utah, but I don't see the Jazz winning the series. They just can't do it. Now, they have a better shot than what the Clippers would have. They're in it somewhat. I mean, you've seen each of the games. The Warriors get out to 15, 18 points in the second quarter, and it's not like they win by 30. The Jazz kind of play even, get it a little closer. So, in some ways, they're in it. Sure, they're in it when they're behind. They don't completely quit, but they're just so much less talented. You can't beat a team that great, and who knows? Maybe on Tuesday morning, I'll be shocked. Maybe the Jazz do what I say they might do twice and actually win those games, outplay the Warriors, and maybe this is going to be a real series. Or maybe on Tuesday morning, it's over. It's over. And here's another advantage I want to say. The Warriors, one of the greatest offenses of all time. The Jazz have one of the worst offenses in the league. The Jazz have the best defense in the league. The Warriors have a very good defense, a top 5 defense. So look at all those factors. Great offense on great defense. Historic offense on great defense. Very good, if not great defense on bad offense. That is not even close. The Jazz offense has been not played well at all at times, and looking at all those factors, like, let's compare players. George Hill to Stephen Curry. George Hill is a good, solid point guard, but that's not even close. Klay Thompson to Rodney Hood or Joe Ingles. Sure, Joe Ingles might shoot for a better percentage, but Thompson's abilities to play defense and just one of the best shooters of all time. I'm sorry, that's not close. Kevin Durant and Gordon Hayward. Maybe Gordon Hayward can outscore him in some games, since here's an example of efficiency. Gordon Hayward might have to take 20 shots, might hit 8 of them. And sure, he might score 20 points, while Durant might go 8 for 14 and get 20. There you go. Or Hayward could outscore him, but a lot less efficiently. Draymond Green and, say, Derek Favors or Joe Johnson or all the possible power forward lineups. Maybe Rodney Hood plays the 4. He's very tall. But I don't know. It's just not even close. Draymond Green's ability to guard the perimeter, paint, all that stuff, not close. Center. Sure, that's the one not even close thing. Pachulia has barely played this series. Comes in, starts. Doesn't play much after that. So it's mainly more Draymond Green playing center. JaVale McGee. They really had 3 centers throughout the series. Sure, maybe they don't have a consistent center who's going to start at center and play 40 minutes. But, sure. And Gobert's, he's had a pretty good series. But looking at the factors, the Jazz are just not good enough to beat them. They're just not good enough. And look, they're this year's version of the mid-2000s Pistons. They're a very good team with very good defense, but this is the deepest, deepest conference in maybe in years. It's very deep. A lot of great, talented teams in the Jazz. If they're in the East, they'd be the 2 seed. But it's not close. And look, the Warriors are going to win this series no matter what. I think it's going to be in 4, maybe 5. I'd be shocked if they won in 6. But it's not close. The Jazz just can't keep up with them. So, let's move on to Spurs-Rockets. So, very interesting series. In Game 1, the Spurs were completely blown out. I mean, that's the worst I've ever seen them play in the playoffs. Maybe ever. And the main thing it was at home, and they lost by 30. In fact, they were scored by 30 in a half. The Rockets just killed them. Ryan Anderson hitting 3 after 3. James Harden going inside, hitting 3s, getting to the line. It just kept happening. They had no chance. LaMarcus Aldridge had 4 points in Game 1. 4! The Spurs had no shot to win. Sure, they played them even in the second half. Sure, for your second unit. Sure, your second unit played their second unit evenly. That doesn't matter. You lost by 30. At home. So, you're starting to think, oh no, the Rockets are going to win this series. And sometimes you can think that's so early. Like, for example, last year the Spurs beat the Thunder by 30. At home. And they lost the series. So anyways, you think, oh, they lost by 30. Oh, this series is going to be a blowout. Well, Game 2, James Harden, 3 of 17. He played as worst as he ever did in the playoffs. He was awful in Game 2. Now, reason why? Kawhi Leonard guarding him. Look, Kawhi Leonard's done a great job of guarding him. Whenever he's on, it seems like James Harden's having a hard time scoring. Doesn't get a whole lot of shots off, and when he does, they're going to miss. And Leonard, he's just been spectacular this series, leading their team in points, rebounds, assists. His passing's really getting better and better. I'd say when it's all said and done, Leonard is going to be, I think he's an all-time great, which is all-around abilities. And when he came in the league, he's this raw guy. All he could do was really defend. He was a great defender coming into the league, and I'm sure he's gotten even better at it. He could not shoot. Worked extremely hard on that. Is a devastating two-way player, which that's the reason why the Spurs are in the series. He's by far the best player. He's carried the team at times this series. He's starting to become quite a good passer. I think he's going to be a great passer when his career is over. He's going to be one of the greatest all-around players ever when it's all said and done. Rebounds. Steals. Of course he's leading in steals. Look at all these categories. He's leading them. Even assists. So, his play last night was exceptional. Very well, too. And look, so let's talk about the Rockets bench. Their bench has not been good this series. I mean, think about it. Lou Williams has been terrible. 0 and 4 points. He's one of the better 6-man in the league. 0 and 4. And going into the playoffs, I was saying, is he going to have one of these stretches? Like, he had a stretch this year on the Lakers where he scored 38, 35, 22, 28, all that stuff. He can score 30 points in a game. Or he might go 2 of 13 and score 4. And we've seen the worst version of Lou Williams in this series. That's the worst I've seen Lou Williams play all year, and it came at the worst times in games 2 and 3, and tomorrow's a very critical game. You saw stuff happen like that. Eric Gordon had a good game 1, has been way down. Ryan Anderson had a good couple first games as one of their best 3-point shooter, was way off yesterday. And they have not had that. And other things that have happened as well. Guys like Beverly, his offense has not quite been there. Harden's had to carry the offense. In one game he goes 3 for 17. There's no way they win. And last night he had 43. Took, I think, 32 shots. I thought he had a very good game. But there's just no way their team was going to win. It was Kawhi Leonard's play. When Leonard was on him, he had no chance to score. Most of his scoring came when Leonard was not on him. Either Leonard was on the bench, was guarding somewhere else, it was a switch. And look, the Rockets could very well be down. Again, same situation as the Wizards. Down 3-1, are facing a 3-1 deficit, going back to San Antonio. And San Antonio has been the toughest place to play in the playoffs the past 20 years. Very hard to win there, especially facing big deficits. And looking at that, what I expect to see the rest of the series, well, Leonard's play, it's very well going to continue. Tomorrow night, Harden could score a very hard-fought 15 points. Leonard scores 40. No chance. No chance. Guys like Lou Williams need to step it up. We might have to see him score 23 points. Gordon needs to do better. Their 3-point shooting needs to do better. They were great in game 1. But games 2 and game 3, they didn't have it. Didn't have it at all in games 2. It was competitive, but then the Spurs pulled away. Leonard contributed to that. And they're without Tony Parker, who went down in game 2, by the way, and so now you got to put in. So they don't have really a true point guard. Patty Mills is a scoring point guard, and DeJounte Murray, I think I got the pronunciation right. He is not ready yet, is still very much developing, and so that might be an advantage the Rockets have there, clearly. How well has Danny Green played this series? Well, Danny Green, he has guarded James Harden a good bit. Has hit some huge threes this series. I thought he's had a good series since Harden. Overall, his percentage is quite low, considering especially what happened in game 2. And I've liked the play of Pau Gasol. I thought he's had a good series, been their best rim protector. So looking at the series, what do I expect, say, the next 2 games, games 4 and 5? Well, for the Spurs to win, Leonard plays like he has so far. Guys around him play well. Aldridge really had a great game last night, 26 points. He was so much better than he was in game 1. Gradually got better every game. Aldridge, if he can play like he did last night. And really, the whole team plays very well for the Rockets to win. Harden has got to play the best basketball of the year. And the guys he finds have got to hit threes. Ariza had a great game 1. Was terrible in game 2. Did alright. By the way, he's a very good defender. Of course, his defense has not been that good this series. Obviously, he's the main guy guarding Kawhi Leonard. So he's going to have to do it on the offensive end. Of course, Leonard's been guarding him quite a bit. So basically, it's kind of unfair, but with Leonard guarding him, I don't have to guard James Harden. I can just completely take Ariza out of the picture. And that's what's been shown sometimes in the series. And the Rockets group of shooters, Gordon, Ariza, Williams, Anderson, have got to step it up. And if they don't, they're going to lose in 5. So what I think is going to happen, I think based on what I've seen so far, the pattern is the Rockets win, the Spurs win a hard-fought game tomorrow and take 5 in San Antonio. So the conference finals, it is not guaranteed. We could be quite surprised. Maybe the Spurs win tomorrow and by Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, things could look very different. But as of right now, the conference finals looks like Spurs Warriors. And there you go. So thank you for listening, and we may get back on the air the next few days. And look, it's been an exciting playoff. Still got a good ways to play. Some series are pretty much decided. Will be pretty much all but decided by the end of the week, and others could be very interesting. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.